We're hanging out with the First Lady of Sports. Now, on this episode of The Tracker, we'll be finding out the values, the ingredients, and indeed the lessons that have molded her into the woman that she is today. Carol Tshabalala is my guest on this episode of The Tracker. Carol, it's good to have you on The Tracker.
What an intro, Benjamin. Pleasure.
Nice. You've been in Ghana for, a couple of hours?
Yep.
Trying to empower women. What's it been like so far in town?
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, I love Ghana. It's not my first time here, not the second, not the third, definitely not the last. But what was really amazing about my outing this time around, my visit, was, of course, the Africa Women's Sports Summit. And it's the first one of its kind here in Accra. And I think a long time coming. It was wonderful to engage with some of the up-and-coming young female sports journalists, to give them some words of encouragement, to take them through my journey, and just to tell them to stay the distance, to keep fighting that good fight, and ultimately they can make all of their dreams a reality. I've enjoyed it.
I'm sure a lot of those young ladies were enamored to have you around.
Yeah.
Taking pictures, handing out little cards, giving pockets of advice here and there. But before you became who you are, to be able to even impact somebody else, where did this all start for you? I mean, in South Africa, where were you born? Where did you grow up?
Oh, I was born in Soweto, Pimville, Soweto. So a proud Soweto girl in the Gauteng province of South Africa. Humble girl, very humble beginnings, really good family values. I grew up in a family that was very passionate about sports. So sport was part of our daily lives. We loved our boxing. We loved our football. Would go to games, would wake up, watch games on that black and white television. And from a very young age, I was quite impacted with the kind of power that sport brought, bringing people of different creeds, color, races, culture, religion together, united for this love. So that's how I grew up, loving sport, and never ever aware that I could turn this into a career. So humble girl who wasn't quite sure where life would take her. I wasn't sure which career path I'd follow. I knew that I was a very passionate individual, very outspoken. I loved my debating. I loved my public speaking. I loved to read. I loved to write. I loved performing. I loved being in front of an audience. I didn't shy away from the limelight. So I thought maybe a career in entertainment is where, is something that I would pursue. Didn't have the finances at home for me to go to like a university after regular school and high school. I couldn't go to university. But luckily fate stepped in, and I found myself being introduced to this world of sport and sport journalism from a grassroots level, doing a junior sports show. And that introduced me to the possibilities and to this world of sports journalism.
Well, you're going a little too fast for me. Let me take you back to Soweto, right? So, what was it like for a young lady out there whose family obviously steeped in sports to express her love for the sports in a man-dominated world? I mean, what was that like? Yeah,
it was interesting. At the time, it didn't quite hit me that this was a male-dominated field, even though, the sports icons and heroes of the time were all basically men. It didn't strike me that there was this huge imbalance. I felt as much a part of this world of sport as everyone else. I mean, I grew up there. My family, my mother, my father loved it. My brother and my sisters were also into this world of sport. So it wasn't until I got started many, many years later that I started to realize that there was this imbalance, and that we didn't have so many women involved in sport as a whole. That world only opened up to me, or I opened up my eyes to that way after.
Interesting. Now, tell us about what happened. You said fate happened and a couple of things collided to get you here. But definitely there was somebody who you had a conversation with, who was willing to give you a break, somebody who saw your passion. Walk us into your first steps into sports journalism, organization hired you? What position were you occupying and all that?
So I would get involved in as much as I possibly could at school. At high school, you'd see me involved in all the cultural activities, in sports as well. I wasn't so good on the field, but I would try my best. I'm a spoiled sport. Couldn't handle losing. So if I was not winning, then I hated it. I'm too competitive, actually, way too much, to the point of not even being able to understand fair play. So if I don't win, then I would give up. I used to do cross-country racing. And if I was not in the front, I would give up way too easily. So I'd get involved in other ways. I'd organize sporting days at the school, head of the cheerleading group, head of the sports council at the school. So I'd find other ways of being involved. But I tried to immerse myself in as many activities as possible. I was just that type of person. So one of the things that I took part in was beauty pageants, but I'll explain why. Simply because it was, we didn't have a lot of money at home, and my parents had separated at the time, so finances was a really difficult, a part of my life growing up. And I found that, I don't know, I had a knack. I guess it was my personality. I'd somehow rank up there. I'd either, be the first princess, or I would be Miss KJ's High. And with that came the prizes, which was, for me, an opportunity to spoil my family, spoil my mother, spoil my sisters with a spa date, or coupons that gave us discounts. So for me, it was a way of spoiling my family, giving back to them, and giving them something that we wouldn't have, experiences that we wouldn't get. That's the only reason why I take part in pageants. And one of the pageants, when I was in high school, one of the judges was a very celebrated television presenter called Graham Richards. He came to the school, came to the hostel, very good-looking gentleman, and he was the flavor at that moment, like a leading presenter, entertainment presenter. And everyone, when they saw him, they were like, oh, my goodness, Graham Richards, I came up to him and I said, Graham, you know what you're doing in entertainment? This is something that I was born to do. I'm born to be an entertainer. I'm born to be in front of the camera. So I don't know if you can give me some words of advice. And he just saw the passion, and my eyes light up when I talked about my abilities. And he said, well, it seems as if you've got a little something in it. He said, here's my number. Come through to the SABC, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and see what it is that I do, see what it's about. Obviously, I thought the number was fake. The very next day, dialed his mobile, and it rang, and unbelievable. And he said, listen, do you have time? Can you come through today? I'm actually doing a voiceover for one of the shows that I work with. Went through. It was a voiceover for a junior sports show called Sports Buzz. I didn't even know what a voiceover was. Saw him performing, and I was like, wow, okay.
When was this?
This was end of 2000, mid-2000.
Wow.
Yep.
The millennium.
Nice.
And
I was completing my matric, and it was up in the air as to what I'll do after school. I was like, we don't have the money to go to university, and I don't know. So I went there. The producer for Sports Buzz was a woman called Melinda Lombard. And she saw this girl sitting there, and she said, listen, do you want to try it out? Do you want to try doing a voiceover? I read a book a day. I was writing short stories. So you give me something to read, that's nothing. That's easy. I took the script, went into that voiceover booth, read it with authority. I was a performer, public speaker, debate. Read it with authority. She loved it, and she said, listen. And I didn't make a mistake. One take. And she said, this is unbelievable. Never seen someone perform like this. And she said, we're going to use your voice for the show tomorrow. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And after that, she said, can you come back next week? Okay, came back the next week, did another voiceover, and another. The rest is history, voiceovers. Then she said, do you think you can write the scripts? I used to write, as I said, short stories. Writing was easy peasy. Started writing my own scripts and doing those voiceovers. Eventually started presenting because all of a sudden I had tons of time. I was finished with my matric, and there was nothing. There wasn't anything that I was doing, so I was around. I used to come to the studio, just sit around, hang around in the office, chat to Melinda, show my interest as well, to go out there with the team and see how it is that they get stories. And what was great about Sports Buzz is that we covered all sporting codes.
Wow.
But from a grassroots level. So it was like mini netball, the Bakers Mini League in terms of cricket, junior football. So I was introduced to this world of sport and sport broadcasting and journalism at that grassroots level. It was a sort of apprenticeship, and I grew from there.
Nice. Literally sounds like you've paid your dues as far as this industry is concerned. Now, you make it sound all smooth and nice, but have you faced any resistance? I mean, in your climb to the top. Tell us about that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there certainly was resistance. It was all good and well when I was playing in the perceived little league, junior sports, up and coming, the youngsters, all sorts of sporting codes. She's doing netball, cricket. She's doing all sorts of things. The Cinderella sports, as they're known as well, recreation. Until I got given an opportunity to now be involved with the big boys in football. And the second I was put there as a field reporter, and now had to ask questions to the coaches, questions to the players. It was, who is this young black girl and what does she know about the game? She's most certainly never played the game. Yeah. So you could already just tell the demeanor, the attitude as you're approaching with the microphone, and they're already expecting a really stupid question to come out of your mouth. Yeah. But when it was the complete opposite, you see the surprise initially, and then you see the respect that you get from knowing what it is that you're talking about. And I mean, that respect only grew over time, and by remaining consistent. I made sure that I was always prepared, always well versed in terms of what it is that I was going to cover. I was always ready, and did so much research and just added, to my knowledge base every single time. So I'd never be caught out. And everything that came out of my mouth was credible, was knowledgeable, and that's how it is that, I faced up to the naysayers.
I'm sure that in your native South Africa, now even in Africa, because you're in Ghana here, inspiring others, women out there and indeed people in the industry look at you sort of as a mother figure for sports women and sports generally. Yeah. If you could pick out 3 things, right, to give out as advice on your journey, what would that be?
In sports journalism, in particular for women,
especially for women.
For women, I'd say, first of all, do you have a genuine interest in this so-called career path that you want to follow? You have to have a genuine interest and passion for that. Yeah. Because if you don't have the passion, you are not going to want to put in the work that comes with it. Yeah. Now, I'm guided by a genuine passion and love for sports. So me having to do my research, me having to watch other games, me having to keep up with sports update news, that's second nature to me.
Doesn't feel like work.
It's not work at all, and it's something that I'm genuinely interested in. So you have to have that genuine interest and passion, and then you'll be able to increase your knowledge base. Don't go into it because it looks like it's fashionable. You're not going to last. We've had a lot of young ladies that have come into the industry for the wrong reasons, because it looks like, hey, you're in the limelight. Yeah. And then they get to see the real work that you have to put in to make it at that particular level, and they crumble. They can't continue. So that's first things first. Let your passion guide you. Keep the passion. Secondly, hard work. Don't be afraid of putting in the hours, putting in that hard work, doing extra work as well. And don't let anyone tell you, don't let anyone tell you to do that extra work, whatever. It comes with the territory, especially when you're still getting started and you're trying to break in. Do the hard work. You're going to have to put in the labor, put in the hours to get to a certain level. So don't be afraid of working hard. And I think thirdly, I would have to say, know your strengths. No one knows you better than you do. No one knows your abilities, your strengths better than you do. And your destiny as well. I was always aware that I was destined for greatness. And I was very aware of my capabilities and my strengths. And that's what made me fearless in my pursuit for, to scale the heights in this career as I have.
Yeah. Now you talk about being fearless, putting in the hard work. What aspect of this reporting job do you love the most?
Oh, there's a lot. I get paid to go and watch live sports. I love being pitch side and getting to be right there on the pitch, you know, hearing the coaches barking instructions to the players, being there, being part of this, the atmosphere, the buzz, and being right in the midst of it all. It's such a rush, such an adrenaline rush to be a part of that world. And I can't believe it. I get paid to watch sport, something that I used to do all the time in any case. Now you get paid for that. So it doesn't even feel like it's work. And then, of course, there's the traveling, going all over the world to cover different sporting events, and calling celebrated icons, I mean heroes and heroines, your personal friends, having them on speed dial, being able to call someone like a Samuel Eto'o and saying, listen, you know, I just saw so-and-so performing, what was it like for you, and being able to get that first-hand insight from icons like that, calling them friends, it's priceless.
Nice. Now, you talk about being able to reach your icons. As far as interviews are concerned, what's been your most compelling interview?
Oh, wow. I've had so many. Unbelievable. I've had so many. I'm trying to think. Did I interview Didier Drogba? No, I haven't. He's a friend. That one's coming up, actually. My most compelling interview, I think when I was starting out a couple of years ago, Commonwealth Games in Australia, Asafa Powell. He was confirmed as the fastest man in the world. And before his race, before the final, he actually granted us an interview where we got to know Asafa the man. Yeah. And he was so gracious with his time. We went to a park, I remember, in Melbourne. And he opened up about where he came from. And just to be able to get that kind of access was unbelievable. He was so humble. It really stood out for me because a couple of days later, he was winning the final. And he was confirmed as the fastest man in the world. Yeah. I'll never forget Asafa Powell. So that was one of the standout interviews for me. Others, wow. Sadio Mane, most recently. Okay. I interviewed Sadio the beginning of last year, actually, beginning of the season, just before the season kicked off, and it was just unbelievable. Once again, coming from very humble beginnings, humble background, not having the support that he needed, no one believing in his abilities, and having to literally just believe in his drive and, you know, pursue his own vision against great odds to make it at the level that he has. Dembaba was another who was so outspoken and gave me so many interesting little nuggets in sports because his experience is second to none. Played all over the world. Yeah. So, yeah, there have been a few standout.
Let's talk about your general standards as a person, right? When interviewing people or on the job, what are the things that you like to be strengthened in the industry, and what are the things that you think are a no-no that need to be done away with?
Ooh, that needs to be done away with? I mean, I think I can talk about myself, you know, from experience. I think what people, especially the subjects that I'll be interviewing, what they love about me is that I'm an individual who's extremely approachable, very relatable. I understand the struggle, where they came from. I understand the person and the human element. So a lot of my subjects are able to relate and connect very easily. Yeah. So then they open up even more and they give me a lot of scoops. They're very relaxed when they're giving me interviews. So I think that perhaps looking at some of my other colleagues, it's not always necessary for us to be driven by finding the story, to find the story or find the controversial element of an interview, right? Some of my colleagues who have that reputation, a lot of their subjects, let me put it that way, will shy away from doing interviews with them. And the second they see them approaching, they'll already tense up. They'll clam up and they won't be as open because they always feel as if there's this vendetta. You're trying to find this controversial element. But whereas when you know, when I'm there, you can relax. You know that I'm only trying to tell the story. And more than anything, I always strive to tell a story that's going to motivate and inspire That's what I mean. That's what I love about sport.
Yeah.
It's a very motivational and an inspirational tool, and I prefer to focus on that other than the controversies and the ugly side of sport.
Any other sporting icons left on your list that you need to check off?
Then I need to, a very good friend of mine, Didier Drogba.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming very soon. Probably in like the next month or two. I'm going to sit him down and do his proper interview. Sporting icons that I'd like to interview, sit down with. Maybe like a Serena Williams. I've met them before. They've been to South Africa as well. Yeah. But at the end of it all, just to sit down and to pick her brains, Caster Semenya, who's a very good friend of mine, very, very good friend of mine. We're very close. Yeah. I'd like to do her, her tell all kind of interview where she sits down. She's such a soft person, unbelievable. And she's also extremely intelligent. So I want to bring that out as well. That's an interview that I'd like. Who else is on my to-get list? Very soon, after the sensational season that he has had as well, like a Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, because I think he's a wonderful representative as well of African football. So, there's a couple here and there.
Talking about representatives of African football, we need to talk about the AFCON. It's here with us. It's in Egypt. What did you make of, first of all, the decision to expand the competition?
I love that. I mean, we as Africa have been fighting and have been baying and calling for a larger number of participants when it comes to the World Cup. Sure. And then the arguments against that have always been, if we expand the numbers, the quality is going to dip, the quality is going to drop. So we have to start. It has to start with us. In fact, it starts with the domestic leagues in terms of promoting the talent and bringing that. And then it starts with the Africa Cup of Nations in terms of really pushing some of those other nations to come to the party and to be included. And the only way that was going to happen, so that we don't have your traditional finalists making it, was to expand the number of teams there. And boy, oh boy, did it bring some interesting elements,
Indeed, actually.
Some debutantes there that we didn't see coming. And I dare say, I think we're going to continue to see the surprises. I think a team or two are going to surprise us at the AFCON.
Who are your surprise package teams?
My surprise package teams would have to be Zimbabwe.
Okay.
I really loved Zimbabwe and how it is that they qualified, and also a lot of the strong players in that Zimbabwe national side hail from the Premier League in South Africa. So I know them well, there's some strong players there. So Zimbabwe would have to be one of them. I think the surprise elements would have to be like a Mauritania. No one saw them coming. Madagascar, people were like, where did they come from? Quite possibly, I think a dark horse that could surprise would be like the Uganda, I think. I think they're going to be definitely one of the teams that are going to surprise us at the AFCON.
Tell us about your own South Africa. It's been quite a struggle.
Up and down. It's been up and down.
I find South Africa weird because in Ghana, we like to push the narrative that if we have a local league that's up to a certain minimum standard,
that will help the level.
Fuel our national team. But South Africa have an elite league in Africa, and their national team has been all over the place.
I think we've been spoiled in South Africa. We have the facilities that are absolutely world class. Obviously, also added to the list because of the World Cup in South Africa. So we've certainly got the facilities. We've got the money. I think that the players are just very comfortable in South Africa, to an extent where not hungry enough, not passionate enough. It's kind of like, listen, I can play for Mamelodi Sundowns
and get paid.
They get paid so much, far more than they ever would be paid for that national team. And it's a conversations that we've been having for quite some time now to say, where is that passion? Because you can see when they don that gold and green jersey, you're supposed to feel a certain way.
Because I was telling somebody that I look at South Africa, right? Yeah. And it doesn't look like they lack football technique. And in fact, when it comes to eye-pleasing football, flamboyance, I think they are literally one of the top nations out there. But it just can't seem to put
Which is
it
not
all
effective.
together.
Which is not effective, and I think the drive is not as strong. And for the longest time as well, we've been struggling with this battle between local-based players and international-based players. And I think one of the conversations was that we need to start seeing more players that have experience abroad. We tend now, especially now, with all of the money that's coming in the local league too, a lot of our players are very comfortable playing at home because you can get just as much money playing in the local league. So you don't want to challenge yourself as much. You go abroad and there's the weather elements, and our players are very fussy. So we've had some players who'd go abroad and then they'd complain about the weather, complain about the food, complain about not seeing the family all the time, and then you want to come back home, to the comforts of home.
That definitely sounds spoiled.
Yep, well, we've got a couple of spoiled players because of the quality that we have back at home. But, and just trying to find that balance between the international-based players and the local-based players. And it's, it's an ongoing battle. But I'm thinking that we're getting closer and closer to ultimately be the team, the stronghold in Africa that we once were.
Now, quickly, looking at the talent base that you have and the coach that you have now, what would be an appreciable finish for South Africa in the AFCON?
Oh, it's so difficult to predict because you look at our performance, you look at how it is that we played against Nigeria, and you think, oh, wait a minute, these boys can play. And then you look at our loss to Seychelles, for example, and it's so up and down, and there's no proper consistency. I just want to get past the group stage. After the group stages, it's anyone's game. And I think we can. I think we will, actually. Yeah.
Well, the conversation with Carol is just getting interesting. You're still watching The Tracker here on City TV. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll delve into what she makes of Ghana's chances. We'll talk about some of her reading interest and some of her off-the-sports interests. Stay with us.
Every weekday at 8 p.m., City Newsroom brings you analysis of the major news stories of the day. In-depth, comprehensive, and researched. It's 1 hour of local and international news from 8 to 9 p.m. It's the City Newsroom. Weekdays on City TV.
Welcome back to The Tracker here on City TV. We're hanging out with the First Lady of Sports. Carol, we're just talking about South Africa, but down here in Ghana, there doesn't seem to be a lot of optimism with regards to our prospects at the AFCON. And that's ironic because we've been to the final and the semi-final in the last two editions, but it looks like the populace really don't seem to think that the Black Stars have what it takes to grab the ultimate. What's the feel for the Black Stars like outside Ghana, especially in your home South Africa?
In South Africa, the Black Stars used to be quite the force in African football. But I think like many other nations, like Cote d'Ivoire, for example, in Ivory Coast, like Cameroon even, we've gone through, there's a new phase now, there's a new era of, Black Stars players, or a new era of footballers that are starting to rise to the fore. And some of the big names from yesteryear, your Giants. Oh, well, then again, who knows? Maybe Asamoah will be in that squad. You never know. But some of those standout individuals, those powerhouses, are not playing any longer. And now we're starting to see this new generation. So I think that like a Cameroonian side where we didn't know the bulk of those players that ultimately went on and they triumphed at the last Africa Cup of Nations. This is the phase that Ghana finds itself in, where the verdict is still out. A lot of youngsters that are coming into the squad, and people don't quite know what to expect. They are largely sort of an unknown entity almost at this stage in South Africa as well. And you're talking more about the nations like maybe the hosts, Egypt, because of some of the standout players like your Senegal, obviously Cameroon from the last AFCON, even though a vast majority of those players are still quite unknown. I think there's other nations now that have taken that front runners.
If I understand you right, you're saying that now if you mention the name Ghana, it doesn't necessarily strike so much fear into people anymore.
No, not like it used to. Not like it used to.
That's interesting.
But that could be an advantage. You know, you could spring a surprise. People don't quite know what to expect from Ghana.
True.
They don't quite know who the danger men are going to be or how to plan to face Ghana. That could be a major advantage.
Talk to me a little bit about African influence in the Premier League, right? Marrying the two conversations, the AFCON and the PL, because the PL just ended. Now we have Aubameyang, we have Salah, and Mane all getting tied for the top goal scorer in the competition. What does that mean for the African continent and for African football generally?
Listen, it's time to celebrate. I think now more than ever, people are it's been out there. We've had some icons that have stood out in the Premier League throughout the ages, and I think it's becoming more glaringly obvious the kind of talent that we possess as Africa. I mean, just unbelievable what happened this last season. I was celebrating. I was saying this is a major plus for Africa. But then, of course, I think the pressure only increases for them to translate that form into their national teams, which is not always the same thing because you're now having to merge with different players, players that you're not around as often as you are with those that you ply your trade for in domestically. So it becomes very different, very difficult. But I think one thing that we all know, and now the world is starting to know and is starting to celebrate, is the fact that we've just got so much talent on this continent, and the possibilities are just endless.
Well, I know that you weave in and out of the Premier League's offices.
Yes.
Can I push you for your Premier League team? What team do you support?
Liverpool at the moment. This season is Liverpool. So I need to explain.
Wait, is it at the moment?
At the moment, this season. Well, and quite possibly next season, depending on their players. So this is how I get to deciding the team that I support abroad.
Okay.
I mean, I wasn't born in the UK. I don't live there. So I find for the common element that's going to make me loyal to a particular team. And for me, it's the African players. I'm African. So I follow the really strong African footballers in the Premier League. For the longest time, the first team that I supported was Chelsea. I was a Chelsea supporter when you had your Drogbas, Essie and Kalu. Come on, you had to. As an African, there's no ways you couldn't support Chelsea. So that was my team for the longest time. And then when that dipped, the representation dipped, Victor Moses was the last to go. I moved to supporting the team that had the strongest African footballer at the time. And he was winning back-to-back CAF awards, African Football of the Year awards, Yaya Toure. Yaya was an absolute marvel.
Man.
I mean, he was the man at Man City. So then I became a Man City supporter. So I moved from Chelsea to Manchester City. And it just so happened that when I made that move and I made that jump, that's when City came to prominence. So a lot of people were like, she just supports the team of the moment, like the team that's doing well at the moment. But I supported Man City. And then, of course, I mean, we saw it now, especially this last season. He was a non-factor. He wasn't involved at all. So this last season, I then moved to the team that had the most Africans and the strong African influence. That is Liverpool. I mean, there's how many? Four, 5 maybe if you count Divock Origi. Yes, you know. But the African influence there, and I mean, I've had conversations with Jurgen Klopp as well, and the way that he absolutely loves his players. He loves the African footballers, and I just love that. I want to celebrate my brothers, you know. So I'm a Liverpool supporter at the moment.
How does it feel to lose the title, supporting Liverpool this season?
Well, you've done so well. When you've literally done everything that you needed to do. You've lost one match the entire season. I think for me it's scary because you think, could they be able to emulate this type of performance You know, they had a sensational season, and you think, is this possible? Can they do this again? Where they literally just lose one game. Too many draws, though. I mean, I think they lost it themselves, you know, when they had that, was a 7-point lead over Man City, and then we had a string of draws. Unbelievable.
Draws against Leicester, draws against West Ham.
Yeah, unbelievable. Teams and matches that we were supposed to have won. But, I mean, I think it's just been a sensational campaign for Liverpool, and I'm glad that they've been able to cap it with, of course, the Golden Boot, 2 of them being from the team, and also the fact that they're back in the Champions League final, and they are going to win it this time.
You know what, let's move away from the sports world a bit. Let's do a couple of leaderboards or lists. Let's go through a few lists. What are your 5 favorite books of all time?
Of all time?
Yeah, books. I'm going to push you to narrow everything you've done onto a list.
Oh, wow. You know, interestingly enough, I love fiction.
Okay.
I read fiction because I just think we live a reality every day. So for me, reading, listening to music, watching movies, that's like traveling without moving. It's a way for me to shut down and not live this reality and be taken to a different world. So fiction, I mean, it would be difficult. I can talk about my favorite authors, and maybe that'll make it easier. I love Stephen King.
Okay.
It's unbelievable. Okay. And I've learned so much from reading Stephen King books, just in terms of you know, my lingo as well, how I speak. I've learned a lot. So I'd have to say, and John Grisham, I love as well. You know, legal, thriller, love that. Sidney Sheldon has been one. Okay, sheesh, the list is difficult. It's difficult. I'd have to say,
in no particular order.
Oh no, Kojo.
Okay.
Was a book that I really loved, Stephen King. I loved The Pelican Brief.
Oh, I read The Pelican
John
Brief.
John right?
Yep.
Amazing. What else did I love? I loved what was it called? Was it The Other Side?
The Other Side of Midnight.
The Other Side of Midnight.
Sidney Sheldon,
The Other Side of Midnight. That was a while ago. Yes.
Yeah, that's definitely intriguing.
Beautiful. What else stood out for me? Oh, there was a book that Stephen King, I forget, I think it's 11/4/98 or something like that. But it talks about the assassination of the Kennedy assassination.
Okay.
Unbelievable. And how that all came about. Fantastic thriller. And then number 1, Mr. Mercedes. It's one of the most recent ones that I've read of Stephen King. Yeah.
Nice.
So I love my fiction. I know it's not biographies or anything like that.
Let's delve into the world of cinema.
Yes.
And tell us about your top 5.
Come on.
Top 5.
So difficult.
Yes.
Top 5 movies?
Top 5. I like to do top 5s because I say if you were locked away in the world with 5 movies to choose to watch forever.
Forever.
Yeah, top 5.
I'd have to look at my collection of DVDs because I only really collect movies that I know I'm going to watch again and again, and they're always going to have an impression. I would definitely have to have on that list, let me think, Con Air.
Okay.
Love Con Air. I love a little bit of action. Love Nicolas Cage. I would have to say my favorite actor is John Travolta, by the way.
So are we doing Face Off?
Unbelievable. So I don't know I don't think Face Off in the top 5. I think
Swordfish?
No, not at all. I think I'd have to go for Phenomenon.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting choice.
Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful movie. Love that. Another movie that made an impact, The Great Gatsby.
Okay.
Love The Great Gatsby. Intelligent. I want to read the book. Enjoyed that. That's definitely going to be up there. What else? And I always go back to it. I enjoyed The Ghost and the Darkness. I don't know if you remember Val Kilmer.
Yes,
about
Val
the lions,
Kilmer. Yes,
the lions of Tsavo.
Yes, I definitely remember that.
Unbelievable. In Kenya, and that was a true story. And you know, half the filming took place in South Africa. And I think another one actually has to be Hotel Rwanda. Not so much the cinematography or anything like that, but the story behind it. And it was just so unbelievable what Rwanda had to go through during that genocide. And how the rest of Africa was oblivious to what was happening. We had our own issues. Sure. You know, we were having our first democratic elections. Mandela had just come out of prison. So what happened in 1994, it's just, for me, it boggles the mind to know that something like that was taking place. Over 1 million people losing their lives, and we were completely unaware. And I remember with Hotel Rwanda, I think a couple of scenes were shot in South Africa, and I got an opportunity to go to the site, to the film site, speak to Don Cheadle. So it'll always be a movie that stands out for me.
Let's do music.
Okay.
Top 5 songs.
No, top 5 songs.
Or top 5 artists. Let's do top 5 artists of all time.
Top 5 artists. Oh, even that is difficult. I don't know. Let me say, growing up, Whitney Houston was a major influence.
Okay.
You know, for me, loved Whitney Houston. Top 5 artists. I mean, Michael Jackson. You have to have a Michael Jackson. Definitely, like one of the greatest of all time. Luther Vandross.
Okay.
My father loved Luther Vandross, and every single Sunday, every single Sunday they would play. So it brings back really good memories of growing up. Now I'm into my hip hop.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say top 5 top artists of all time, but one of my favorites. Coldplay. They're unbelievable.
Okay. You have one more to go.
So Coldplay definitely has to be on that list. And I think there's one. No, that Coldplay would probably be number 1. Second on the list would have to be I need a hip hop artist.
You need to put one in there.
Who stood the test of time. I would have to say, I don't know, maybe a Jay-Z. Maybe a Jay-Z, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, before we go, I knew I said I was getting off the sports, but I'm back to it again. Top 5 sporting icons of all time.
Top 5 sporting icons of all time. This is a difficult one. From my point of view, as in people that I look up to and I think need to be celebrated, because then it would be very heavy.
They don't have to be
African
what everybody
influence.
else wants. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, for me, if I had to come up with that list, it would be Africans, you know, because they've also had an impact in my life. But globally, this is a difficult one. Top 5 athletes of all time. They are going to be African, majority of them. I'd have to say Baby Jake. I love my boxing. And for someone who is so short, to have so much power and, you know, to be celebrated beyond the shores of South Africa, you know, to fight abroad, to become a world champion several times, you know, short in stature, but tall in terms of talent and power. Baby Jake, what a king. I love Baby Jake. Matlala. When it comes to footballers, there are many greats. Didier Drogba is one of them, without a doubt. Samuel Eto'o, because of the leagues that he's played in, being able to be consistently great.
Yeah, been everywhere.
He's been everywhere actually, literally. And at one stage be the richest footballer in the world, not African, for the richest footballer in the world.
That's a time in Russia.
In Russia, when he was playing for Anji Makarkarla. So, I mean, Samuel Eto'o has just done so much for African football. How many? I've got 3, right? Two more to go. Yep. I mean, I have to talk about the Williams sisters. In terms of tennis as well.
You want to put them
breaking
together?
The mold, breaking the mold and, you know, breaking those glass ceilings and stereotypes and shining even without the support. Unbelievable. And then, I mean, if you talk about that, I'm not really into golf, but the influence of a Tiger Woods, for example, and his unbelievable comeback not so long ago, just shows the resilience. Unbelievable. It just shows that if you were born with it, if you have the talent, regardless, There's nothing anyone can do to stop it. And Yaya Toure is in there as well. There's a few, but yeah.
I'm just so sad that I have to do this. But Carol, I think that as far as we are concerned, you've literally performed your First Lady duties way, way beyond our expectations. Hopefully the next time you're in Ghana, we can have you again on the tracker.
Definitely. I'll give you guys a call.
The First Lady says that she'll give us a call the next time she's in Ghana. That will be exciting. My name is Benjamin Nketsia. You've been watching the tracker live on City TV.